Welcome to In the Chute. This is Kaylin. With me is my mom, Lisa, and this is throwing me off, honestly, because normally the other person sitting in the other screen is a little gruffer, a whole lot less better looking, and
Really
not as
gray.
not as sweet. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, son.
Of course, mom. So in the next 14 and a half minutes, I'm finding mom is harder to keep under that limit than dad is, surprisingly enough. I'm gonna ask mom, what has it been like growing up in an urban environment not associated with agriculture whatsoever and finding a Wild West cowboy and going
Oh
into
my
a
God, he
ranching
is.
business for the last almost 30 years? What
Yeah.
what has been like the things that you've learned and you've just been like, what is going on here? Like the cultural difference, all that stuff. What's been the big things from
Oh,
you? Like, so this is as an agricultural spouse perspective.
right. Hmm. So I grew up in a small town, in town.
I wouldn't
Always loved
count
animals.
Sheridan as a small town, but all right.
Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of a medium-sized town in this part of the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had about 7,000 people, I think, when I grew up there. Um, Anywho, I always liked, I always thought I'd want to live just outside of town, an acre or two where you had some room, you could have a horse, stuff like that. Um, Always liked animals. And my parents were always like, you should be a veterinarian because you love animals, which probably would be a good thing for my personality. But anyway, didn't go that direction. Ended up being a veterinarian ad hoc, I guess, but not really. I got a toolkit and everything, got all my
Sure.
medicines. So yeah, you always go, hey mom, what do you got for this? Right. But never really thought like full-fledged ranching and farming and out in the boonies was a thing for me. Still questionable about the boonie part, but
I don't consider that the boonies. It is 4 miles off of a major highway that goes from one major city in Montana to another major city in Montana.
and how many people are in that town where
That's
you
not
turn?
that's not part of the equation.
Oh yes, it is.
We're
Oh
talking
yes, it is.
proximity. We're talking proximity to the outside world. Nope, that doesn't count. All right, please continue though.
Okay, so he's just a liar, just so you know that.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So anyway, never even considered living in the boonies. I like having stuff to do and places to go, and I like going into town and shopping and all that. Then I met your dad. Well, at the time, he lived in Billings because we're going to college. And honestly, he trapped me with a false sense of what life was because he got his degree and he became a game warden. And we lived in town. We'd go see grandma and grandpa at the ranch once in a while and help them out with some things. Never did I imagine that we were going to live somewhere other than close to a larger town. So I was kind of like, yeah, this is okay. And then when we moved back to the Billings area, and he said, we don't want to live in town. And I said, I'm okay with that. Let's live on the outskirts of town. And then he got further and further away. As some of your friends from high school would say, you live nearly to Roundup.
Oh
We
God,
don't.
we don't.
It's not
Not
even
even close.
close.
But yeah, they do say
But
that. What's funny though
but
is he did try to escape people, and people came and found him. Where you live
that's true.
now has grown so much. It's just yeah.
That's true. Well, and it was kind of a funny thing in Miles City when he transferred back to Billings. He said, "Well, we got to move. I've arrested somebody from every side around us."
Yeah.
And it was right. But anyway, so we came here and built the house here in Shepherd. And it was, like you said, there weren't nearly as many people and more have moved in. And I kind of thought, well, this is good. I like this because you got some space. You got a little bit of land and you're not on top of each other like you are in Billings, which I don't like being so tight like that either. Well, then the next one was, oh, we're going to retire to the ranch. That is the boonies. So I said, well, we'll have to make some adjustments, but So that's a big adjustment, going from living in town where, oh, dang, we forgot to get butter at the grocery store. You just 5-10 minutes and you go to the store. That's not quite how it is where we're at. It's a half an hour to the grocery store, which isn't terrible, but it's not like something, if you forgot one item, you don't run into town to get it. You do without, or you see if like the convenience store 10, 12 miles away has it. When we go to the ranch for permanent, well, Dad's up there most of the time. There's a small store 4 miles away, but again, you're probably not going to be going and jumping in the car to get something if you forgot one item. So there's a logistic kind of thing you got to get used to. You got to be able to plan ahead. And that's why the pantry's full, because you got to have things in case something comes up and whatever. Probably the other thing is you have less, at least from our perspective, and it might just be that we both tend to work a lot. We have less of a social life. We get together with friends periodically, but on our time off, we're working. We're either doing something with the cows or the horses, fencing. It tends to be work related as far as the ranch. So that's kind of a big shift, and also it's an age thing. Cause when we were in college, we may have had an adult beverage or two on occasion. You're more social.
Yeah,
Probably less
that's fair.
social.
Also makes a lot of sense for me too, because I don't normally go out of the house much, and it might come from that because I'm just used to.
We just didn't go places.
Yeah, but then also that was a big change for me too, is going from that environment into the military. Was everywhere I go, I'm living at most, the furthest I have lived away from the store since I've been in the military is probably 7 minutes away from something.
And isn't that nice? How it's convenient.
It is convenient, but I also hear a lot of noises at night, like sirens and schools. Like if it's a Friday night, I might hear the pep band when I'm trying to go to sleep.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because you're just over the tree. There's kind of a tree line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that is one thing that I had to get used to, is fewer noises. So then when you heard a noise, it's like, what was that?
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on? Yeah. Yeah. And also you have to kind of change your way of thinking. Instead of, I'm going to rely on neighbors to help me if I get into a bind, you have to become more self-reliant. Okay, you just got to figure it out. Which, I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's just a shift in how I was as I was younger.
That's interesting. You made me think a bunch of things now.
And then the other part is, getting put into things that were totally out of my wheelhouse of doing and learning. I had been on a horse a couple of times with a friend, and I would sit behind her and she would ride. But then when Dad taught me how to ride, the right way, all the proper protocol. Okay, so this could be one where the three of us could do another in the chute. Dad teaching his spouse how to ride. Okay.
So the one thing I have learned from Dad is don't ever teach your spouse anything.
That was part of the lesson he learned in this. Yes.
Yeah,
but it was so funny. But I wanted to ride horses and do stuff, and I would on the older horses that Grandma and Grandpa had, and they kind of were on autopilot, and I was okay. But I really didn't learn how to ride a horse and be able to control a horse until Braden's probably in the 3 to 5 years range, because I was taking care of little guys. I needed to keep you guys safe while Dad was doing stuff. And all the horses we had around were newly trained horses. Yeah. So Dad said, okay, I'm going to teach you how to ride and have a good seat and control of the animal and all that good stuff. Right. So we're out in the corral, and I don't know who I was on. And he's like, all right, you need to do this. Now this, shoulders back, feet forward. And I was like, give me one thing to do at a time. it's easy, Lisa. And he's just going on about, you got to do this, 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 and this, hands down, shoulders back. You can hear it. All right.
Yeah, because this is how I learned. But I
And
was also 3 or 4 and I didn't have a chance to talk back. It was like, okay.
well, there's that. And I stopped the horse, and evidently I gave him a look because he's like, what?
Uh-oh.
And I said, how long have you been riding a horse, Brandon?
All my life.
All my life. And I said, how long I've been riding a horse, Brandon? Not all your life. And I said, the thing is, this is something very natural and normal for you.
Yeah.
It's not for me. And so you're throwing all these things at me and you're saying it's so easy. It's not. You're asking me to do a whole lot of new things at once. And so then he kind of stepped back and he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And so he was better, but it was just kind of funny because it's like, when you know it so well, you forget there's a lot of stuff going on. And
well, yeah, I mean, it's the same with me too. Like I've had a couple of our partners at Dunrove and say, oh, you and your dad know how to ride really well. I was like, but then you think about it and like, yeah, it's, it's just, to us, it's second nature. If somebody were to say, hey, pick up the fork and the spoon and the knife and use them to eat, you're like, okay, not a big deal. That's how it is for us. But like, again, we were both put on top of a horse when we were in diapers.
Very young.
Then we were put into little saddles to learn how to ride when we were little guys. And we've just slowly grown into the horses more than anything.
Right. And if you were given a motorcycle, you would feel incompetent.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because you're not used to it. So that's another thing. And then probably I'll like the equipment. I don't want to mess with the tractor because Dad gets a little cranky if things aren't done his way. And so I just say, how do you want me to do it? And then he gets mad when I say that. And
what's
he's like,
funny is he gives me and Braden a hard time about hand-eye control because we do enjoy video games on occasion.
Right.
Braden enjoys them far more than I do. But our hand-eye control is really good with the bucket. And he says he's good, but I've seen the work between us and him
not as smooth as you guys are. And it's because of those stupid video games. Absolutely. Yeah. But so that the tractor, and we have that old 1010, JD 1010, I think it is. And that's like old school. Mm-hmm. And just learning how to move and use those has been a challenge, but fun. Yeah. The one thing I'm excited for retirement, because that's the only time I'm going to have time to do it, is really learn how to use that MIG welder. I've done a few things.
MIG welder.
I want to play with the MIG welder. So do you know what maybe not my first project will be?
What?
A pug sculpture. I'm getting odds and ends of pieces, and we're going to make sculptures.
All right, that is what it's like to be an egg spouse. Coming from an
You're a jack of all trades.
Yeah. All right. With that, we will put this conversation to pasture.